state and federal prisons. We looked at recidivism rates. We looked at how well individuals who are incarcerated are being prepared to re-enter society. And so in that review process, there were criminal justice reforms that were proposed and implemented, and this Smart on Crime initiative is an outcome of that particular process. And so if I may, Jason, for example, the Pew Charitable Foundation in 2011 found that 1 in 100 adult Americans are incarcerated. Well over 600,000 individuals are released from state and federal prisons each year. Of these, 40% of federal inmates and 60% of state prison inmates will reoffend within 3 years after leaving prison. And 95% of incarcerated individuals will be released back into the community ultimately or at some point in time. And so when we look, for example, at just these statistics alone, we know that there has to be a better way in keeping our community safe, in supporting individuals so that they can be better prepared through education, through workforce development efforts, to re-enter our society, our communities, and the workforce, be able to get a job, be able to support themselves and their families. And we know when individuals are at that place, people are less likely to make decisions that will be more harmful to themselves, their families, and the community. Mm-hmm. And because they're in a place where they're able to be self-sufficient, and whether that means they are now in a position where there are career opportunities available to them, or they become entrepreneurs because of the education and skills that they have learned as they prepare for their release. All of these factor into the Smart on Crime initiative, and certainly with the upcoming trainings that we are going to be speaking about today. Okay,
now Karen, I'm interested in your perspective on this, because how, with your expertise as an employee relations professional, what light can you shed on this topic? And with not only with the formerly incarcerated people reacclimating themselves into society and into the workforce, but maybe also the existing workforce learning to accept somebody that was previously locked up because of some crime and everything, and then incorporating them into the organization.
Sure. Most importantly, our goal is to make sure that we connect the businesses with this workforce. Their success, our role is ensuring that the folks who are re-entering have enough skills that match up with the businesses, and we start to align on an untapped labor pool. So we certainly want to work closely with the folks in corrections and those actually re-entering, so that those connections are made and workforce development occurs prior to them actually entering, and certainly working on getting the businesses on board.
Because there is a lot of literature, I'll throw this out, either one of you can answer, but there's a lot of literature that would indicate that when people that are incarcerated are released back into society, they try and get work and try and become productive members, just the fact of going from a prison environment back into civilian life is a massive culture shock in and of itself. Yes. And then when you go into that and say, now you're on a schedule and you may have to time in and time out, now you've got a supervisor, now you've got responsibilities, you've got customers and everything like that. I mean, that's a lot for someone to process, I would think, given what their life up to that point inside jail.
Yes, that's correct, Jason. I think for all of us that are part of sort of this network of either support services or agencies and organizations that are working with our criminal and juvenile justice systems, this is what we see and what we understand to be the case. So with the 2 upcoming trainings that we have, they are actually products of a working group that was formed after our One Community Guam conference in June of 2015. And this working group took the recommendations and the sort of next steps that were identified and talked about how can we move forward and try to bring these to fruition. So the first conference that we have, for example, is scheduled for June 27th and 28th. That's Monday and Tuesday of this year. And we have an individual by the name of Michael G. Santos, He is a former offender. He was, at 23 years of age, he was arrested and he was subsequently convicted of drug trafficking in federal court. He was sentenced to 45 years in prison and served 26 years of that prison term. During that time frame, there was a lot of self-reflection. He had come to a point where he worked to educate himself through various higher institutions of learning. And he then developed a reentry program, which he has described as involving cognitive and life skills development. And so this particular reentry program is one that is being introduced to our Department of Corrections, to our Department of Youth Affairs, and to all of the stakeholders that work within our criminal and juvenile justice systems. And it's important to have a reentry program like this actually in the institution, the correctional institution, because it is there for the very purpose of preparing individuals so that when they are released, they're that much
So it's not some night and day.
Right, absolutely. And so coming from someone like Mr. Santos, who has worked on this for quite some time and has been in that place, he is able to contribute, obviously, very valuable information to this process.
Indeed. We'll tell you what, let's hold that thought and stay tuned, everybody, because when we come back, we'll find out more about reentry and employment opportunities when we come back. Sit tight.